With massive layoffs in nearly every sector, weakness in manufacturing, car sales, and housing, and the biggest one-month decline in the trade deficit since the financial crisis, the economic picture is not looking good, which might explain why so many billionaires are loading up on gold, including hedge fund manager John Paulson and real estate mogul Sam Zell. Bottom line, now is the time to own gold, which is why the experts at Stamsberry Research just stepped forward with a major gold prediction, arguing gold could soar as high as $3,000 by the end of the year, possibly even higher. You can find out why and get instant access to their #1 gold investment today. It's not bullion, an ETF, or a mining stock, but in the past, this gold strategy could have made you nearly 50x your money. Considering how quickly the price of gold has been moving in recent weeks, you don't want to waste any time missing out on the gains these experts believe are in store for this gold stock. To get a copy of his new free report with all the details, simply go to goldmaniareport.com. Again, that's goldmaniareport.com for a free copy of his new report. Hi, this is Daniela Cambone, and welcome back to the Daniela Cambone Show. Joining me today is the short seller who predicted FTX, predicted Silvergate capital collapses, and shorted SVB Financial. But he says this is all a bigger plan, a worldwide money laundering scheme. We're going to learn about his thoughts today. Please welcome back to the show, Mark Cohodes, a fan favorite, and you can find him at Alder Lane Eggs. Mark, good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me back. It's good to be back. I like you guys. So I'll do whatever I can to help.
Well, we appreciate it. We like you a lot too, and so does the whole Twitter community. You have emerged as the white knight. Some people questioning whether you have a time travel, device, kind of like the Simpsons creator, of how you knew that all this would unfold, that all these dominoes would fall. How did you know?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, it sort of all began. I had a really bad shoulder injury last May. A horse ran into me and put my arm in a couple pieces, and my shoulder was all messed up.
Oof.
And so I had some time on my hands, and I started to focus in a lot on SBF and FTX because everyone was hyping him up as the next great thing. And the more I watched him and the more I read about him, I thought he was just a complete fake. He never answered questions. No one ever came forward to vouch for him. There were so many gaps in his story. So I just started digging in, and basically the media had it all wrong. And if people just stepped back and thought what he was saying through, I think you'd realize that he was or is actually a bigger fraud than people allege. I thought it was all fake, and since I had a little extra time on my hands, I started baiting him a little bit on Twitter. He immediately blocked me, and then as I started digging, I went to Bloomberg with the story of him and Wang, how his past doesn't add up, how you go to LinkedIn and check everyone on FTX, and it's just a bunch of amateurs, and Bloomberg told me that if they ran the story, they would lose access. I said, well, part of what you guys do is you should hit things hard, and if you lose access, you lose access. But no one wanted to hear about it. It was much easier to tell the narrative of him, just like they told the narrative of Holmes at Theranos. People fall in love with the shiny object, and the shiny object, in this case, turned out to be a complete fake. So
yeah,
that's sort of where it all started for me.
I wish you had come to me with the information because FTX, Sam was supposed to be on my show. He wanted to come on, pitched it, but I always turned him down. Now I didn't have the insights that you had. It was just more of a hunch that something was not adding up there. But I just want to give some more context for the folks at home. If you didn't follow Mark's history, he's considered one of the greatest short sellers of our time. He's responsible for putting over 60 fraudsters behind bars. Harvard Business Review even wrote a case study on your short of Nova Star Financial. So yeah, this is not just anyone picking a fight here. So Mark, you really basically followed the money. I guess my question is, when you say this is bigger story here, it's part of a worldwide money laundering story, that's really where I want to get your insights.
So after FTX blew up, I've always known of this crappy bank in La Jolla called Silvergate.
Right.
And it turned out to be, the biggest crypto lender out there, the biggest lender in crypto. And they had something called the Send Network, which they bragged moved money 24/7, 365, and FTX was their biggest customer. And if you go back through all the things on the internet, and really you can gather this stuff through public information. I had no insiders, I had no formers, I had nothing. I had some time on my hands and I was just putting things together. And the world right now lacks people's ability to actually think. So when I started putting pieces together, where SBF basically said before Silvergate, FTX couldn't exist. And the same thing with Alameda. So I said, this is funny. And there are only two banks that actually have the, ramps, if you will, into crypto, Silvergate and Signature. And the more I dug in on Silvergate's clients, one was worse than the next. I thought these people were worldwide fraudsters and money launderers, and I can prove it. And I wrote, and some people I know, we wrote a 20-page letter to the SEC, the DOJ, the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, the OCC, outlining, what I and a few others thought were crimes that these guys were committing. And one thing leads to another, to a brother, to a mother, and, crypto started getting exposed, and Silvergate had withdrawals, and we wrote the auditor a letter saying these are the violations we think they're committing. And the auditor basically pulled their opinion. They wouldn't let them file their 10K. The FDIC shut the Send Network down. And Silvergate, when I began this program, was in the 50s. And now the stock trades at 2. And it's going to fail. And the bank's in voluntary wind down. And it's a true scandal. And I've said to whoever will listen to me, Silvergate is a publicly traded crime scene and the CEO needs to go to jail. Right. And when you use the United States banking system to launder money worldwide from China through Russia, through the Mideast, all over the place, these are bad, bad things. So simultaneously, I was also working on Signature Bank, which was the other ramp. And that's a big company that's in the S&P 500. Wrote similar letters to the same people about them. And, if we would have had this a week ago, the stock was 100. Stock closed Friday at 70, and the Federal Reserve and FDIC seized the bank over the weekend, so the stock will never trade again, right. Which is kind of a big deal. I mean, because this is an S&P 500 company, and it's going to trade from 70 to 0. Now, their deposits are mismatched with their liabilities. They have a bad commercial real estate portfolio. But there were two publicly traded companies that had on and off ramps to crypto and these offshore exchanges, which I warned people not to be involved in, and now they're both out of business. So really, it's, I'm very proud of the work I did here. I'm very proud of the time I put in, because I did the world a solid, because two really bad outfits are now out of business.
You did.
So I'm pleased there.
You know what's sad, Mark? You're doing the work of what journalists should be doing. And unfortunately, this is obviously a field I love, that I studied in. But the issue with pumping out news faster and beating people on Twitter has led to the death of investigative journalism, that we don't have the time to sit back and do this digging that you've done. So I thank you for that. And I guess my question is there someone else you're digging on right now? Can you share any information of who's next on your radar?
Well, I said on Twitter, I'm 63. I'll be 63 in June. I'm no spring chicken. I don't have a firm, and it's just kind of the me show. So essentially, I've hit the triple crown. I've hit FTX, I hit Silvergate, I hit Signature. And this has all really been since November, and it's March. So I'm not saying I need a break, but I had 3 bullets in my gun. All 3 bullets hit the target. So I don't really have, much in that space. I mean, I'm short Helen of Troy, which I think is a financial nightmare. That's symbol HELE. And the accounting is really bad. And the CFO the other day quit. It's about $100 stock. I think it's headed for big time trouble. It's not a fraud, but their numbers are very overstated, and I think the stock's going a lot lower. That's really essentially what I have and I'm working on. But in terms of my big plays, I'm 3 for 3, and I think they're all grand slams, and it just
Absolutely.
I mean, I was telling my girlfriend this just doesn't happen like this. I mean, if someone, who does what I do, if they have 1 or maybe 2 of these in their career, they've had an outstanding career. But I've had 3 of these things in a few months. So I'm not, I only do and research things that I think are high value targets that matter. And so I feel good, and I could use a little break because my arm's better and the weather's going to get better. So I'll be back to riding horses. So
absolutely, a well-deserved break. And that's the interesting thing about you, Mark. You live on a chicken farm. You're not selling anything, right? Even before the interview, I said, what is there anything you want me to bring up? And you're like, no, I'm not here to sell anything. It's
no,
just
I don't.
you.
Yeah, I don't take money. I don't have a fund. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'll toy eventually with having a YouTube channel or something like that to bring fresh guests on and just give people fresh air. Because Twitter, sometimes they cancel me on Twitter. Sometimes they suspend me because they don't like my rhetoric. But, you hit on something that I think is really big and one of the reasons I support you guys and believe in what you do is you sort of give it to people straight. And the media and the mainstream media has truly lost their way. And I think it's really run by these shadowy PR firms where they control what they want the narrative to be rather than the truth. And people, CNBC, I call it the Cartoon Network. I never watch it. But if you listen to that thing and you watch that, you'll lose an awful lot of money. And we've had the death of thinking or critically thinking lately. And we've had the advent of these financial PR firms, which just push a really bad agenda. And I think people really just don't know what to think. And if if folks out there, if you can listen to more and more free thinkers and think for yourself, I think you have a much better shot than the average person, because
I think so.
I think I saved a lot. I think I saved a lot of people an awful lot on FTX. At least that's what people message me at. But if they don't listen or hear or think, people can lose a lot of their money, and people work hard for their money, and it's just a shame they get scammed the way they've been scammed. So it's a fascinating time. I mean, I have plenty of money, so it's not like I need a job, but if I can make a difference or I can move the needle, that's why I kind of want to do it.
Yeah,
And
that's amazing. And I appreciate you saying that. And I guess when people, say to me, Daniela, when are we going to see you on mainstream media? I'm always baffled. I'm like, you're not.
Yeah.
I don't want to be on mainstream media. I want to be able to do the stories I want to do and talk to the people I want to talk to. And I want to get your thoughts. Okay, so like I said, our work, we're trying to always bring it home for the folks at home, right? So there's a lot of information, a lot being thrown at them right now. I want to get your thoughts on where you think or what the Fed might do. Goldman Sachs coming out saying, you know what, they may now pause on interest rate hikes. Any feeling as to where we will be headed next, Mark?
Okay, so I'm going to preface by what I say is that I'm not a macro guy. That's not my core competency. I'm just a stock guy, and I like stocks and I hate stocks. So macro is really not my thing, but I have opinions like everyone else. So I don't want anyone to take anything as gospel. But one thing I commented on a Twitter Spaces the other day was, the cost of people living is completely out of control. Whether it's the CPI or PPI, that doesn't really capture how expensive it is these days to live. And whether it's hiring somebody to clean a stable or propane or food or how much it costs to eat out or drive or insurance. I mean, the cost of everything is really through the roof. And I think the Fed, through all this easy money over the past, let's just call it decade and a half, has really messed things up. Has gotten people believing that easy money is the thing, which is why these banks are all in trouble. They all borrowed all this cheap money and they made stupid low interest rate investments, and now it's coming home to roost. So the Fed's in a real box, and I think inflation's not going to go away anytime soon, which is a problem. And these banks are very sick because their assets and liabilities and durations are all out of whack, which is why you're seeing these regional bank stocks getting destroyed. Because the Fed basically said, you know, if you need money, you can come to the federal window, which is fine, but it's a black eye. But what's going to come with that is all these financial firms are going to have to raise money.
Right.
And in these very dilutive offerings, which is why these stocks are getting killed today. But in terms of the CPI, what's the Fed going to do? They're in a real box. What I think they should frankly do is take interest rates way up, and absolutely kill inflation. Because the economy, it may not be great, but it's not that bad. I mean, people, you know, there's still a shortage of a lot of things, and they really need to slow things down hard and break inflation. They really do. And if a couple eggs break and a couple of guys go out of business, it's okay. I mean, I think we're in a zombie state. This constant need to bail out or keep financially unsound companies going needs to stop. I mean, no one has ever bailed me out. No one's ever bailed you out. No one bails out, you know, people other than guys who mess up.
Well,
so I think we're at a conundrum. Everyone from Silicon Valley was begging for a bailout, but these guys use cheap money to make billions. There's $3 billion of dry powder with either VCs or private equity. Let them go start a new bank and let them, or 3 trillion, I'm sorry. Let them go start a new bank and let capital go to financially sound outfits.
A few crazy things here, Mark. The Fed is basically protecting the banks now from the higher rates.
Right.
Are they not?
Yeah, that is the bad cycle that they've gotten themselves into.
Right.
But the problem is, by never letting anyone fail and never punishing anyone for bad behavior, this is now the cycle we're involved in. And it's this constant, you know, Ackman, who I think is a complete clown, Mark Cuban, another clown, Kevin O'Leary, another clown, and all these, you know, Peter Thiel and everyone, all these people have made their money on very cheap money and on the backs of these very low rates. And businesses have cycle. And there's a word called risk, and everyone's forgotten what risk and the backside of risk entails. And this is where we're living right now, and people seem to not want or allow a business cycle to actually transpire. The second things get bad, they want it good. Right. They want the Fed to turn on the happy gas. I just don't know. It makes the environment very difficult.
And so when, you know, we hear all these comparisons to 08, people saying, no, don't compare to 08. It's nothing like 08. But in a sense that, you know, 08 was a bailout, is this not just a modified bailout?
This is, you know, the banks actually are healthy. The people at the banks who really messed up are people who borrowed short term at 0 and invested long term at 1 or 2. Now, long term, those rates have gone through the roof, and now you're borrowing at 4 to 5, and your durations and you're so mismatched. So it was really the management of these financial institutions who got all sideways. And since you can move money around now at a click, right? You hit 3 buttons, you can move millions of dollars around. You can move hundreds of millions of dollars around. I can get on my iPhone and move money from Wells Fargo to JP Morgan to Morgan Stanley to Interactive Brokers in 30 seconds. So people lost track, or high net worth people lost track of the fact that the FDIC only, insures up to 250,000. So when you see a so-called run on the banks, it's not by Joe Sixpack. It's not by the guy who has $9,000 in the bank. It's by people who have, 1 to 100 million, or businesses between 1 to 100 million. And why you wouldn't be in a too big to fail institution in this day and age is beyond me, just beyond me.
Okay, let's hone in on that point you just said right there, because anyone who follows your work knows you're not a fan of the crypto space. But as you know, Bitcoin, especially the maximalists, are using this as an opportunity to say, rejoice, this is what we've been telling you, this is why you should be in Bitcoin, be out of the system, you can't rely on banks, they're the criminals, they're the crooks, don't be part of Wall Street. What's your response here?
Well, again, anyone who follows me know that I have nothing to do with crypto. I've never owned it, I've never been shorted. Honestly, I don't care. If there is any piece of crypto that's legitimate, it's probably Bitcoin. And my only point, my anti-point on Bitcoin is you have to know the exchange you're involved in, you have to know your counterparty, you have to know that it's manipulated security without a doubt by big fish. You have to know that the government's not going to regulate it. And if there's an accident, there's no one to blame other than yourself. That's the anti-part of Bitcoin. The bullish part of Bitcoin is that the system's busted and this offers an alternative. How it all shakes out, I really don't know, because again, I'll get back to it that I'm a stock guy and I don't need to cloud my mind with what I call noise. I mean, I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not good at, so I just focus on my strengths and stay away from my weaknesses. But make no mistake, I mean, we're in a dangerous time. We're in a time where, again, if we did this a week ago, Signature Bank was 103, and today it will never trade again. It's worthless, and the bank has been seized. And this all happened within a week. So it's again, I don't give advice, but my thoughts would be, the average person who listens to you is smarter than most. I think people need to think for themselves. I said at the conference I was at with you guys that if you can't explain your ideas to a 10th grader in a paragraph or less, you probably shouldn't be involved in it. And I think that's really true today, because people want to see the bright and shiny object. They want to see something that's simple. And this just isn't that simple. It's very complex. And the way the system is set up, it's set up for the average person to lose. So, I mean, it's a difficult time. And I think people need to think things through and not be in a hurry. And if it doesn't make sense, you probably shouldn't do it. I mean, there aren't going to be runs on banks from a deposit standpoint. The government has made that clear that they'll make these deposits good. But the backside of that is going to be the people who need the money for the deposits are going to dilute the living hell out of their equity. So the bank stocks will go down, which is being reflected today. People are starting to figure that out.
Okay, and let's talk about that point, because, I can't tell you the amount of people are writing me in saying, are we going to see bail-in? Should I move my money completely out of the bank? There's just absolute panic here. We're seeing, people flocking to gold. Maybe I should move my, the money and convert it into gold or whatever. Thoughts there? I mean, how do you not panic, and what should we be doing?
Well, again, that's not my lot in life to tell adults what to do. I don't tell my kids what to do, my dog what to do. I can't tell anyone what to do. But, panic never does anyone any good. But just understand, I think, what's going on. I mean, you have all sorts of winds blowing in various directions. And there's nothing wrong with buying United States Treasury, bond, bill, note, whatever duration you want to pick. You don't have to play. You don't have to be in stocks. You don't have to be in speculative things. You don't have to be in crypto. You don't have to do anything with your money, but you should, in dangerous times, you should be safe. In riskier times, if you think things are going to change, you can be more aggressive. but you shouldn't be aggressive all the time, and you shouldn't be safe per se all the time. It's kind of like speed limits on the road. So,
Right.
you're going to get an inflation reading. I don't know what it's going to be because they keep changing the metrics. And honestly, I don't even care. But the government has an inflation problem. We don't have a deflation problem right now. But with what's going on with the banks are not going to want to make stupid loans anymore because they're all burned. So money is going to get tighter. And in tighter money conditions, you don't want to own stocks that are highly leveraged or companies that need money. So I would sort of be careful of that. And I think you want to be involved in companies that are sound financially, that are well run, that can grow, and that you think, over a period of time can work. And what those are, I mean, that's all up to whoever's listening to this.
I guess let me rephrase the question. I mean, if I look at Mark Cohodes, how exposed are you to the banking system? How liquid are you? How much cash should one have right now?
I have a lot of cash, and I have a lot of cash in treasuries. I mean, I've done all right. I've done well on Signature. I've done right on Silvergate. I was having a miserable year up until that. I mean, I'm long two stocks. I'm long Overstock, which is speculative, but I like it and has $9 a share in cash, and the stock's trading at 18, and they have no debt. And I'm long Enovix, which is a very, very, very speculative battery company that's making batteries, and they have cash and they have management that I think is outstanding, and I think it's going to be a huge deal. But it's speculative as hell, but I believe in it, but I'm short enough stuff against it that I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
But I'm a complex guy. I'm not your standard. I have a stomach for risk, even though, some people think I'm old, but I don't know. I mean, I'm short Helen of Troy. I'm short a couple other things, but I'm not, I know it's a volatile period, and I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, and I'm not being aggressive right now. I mean, the Signature Bank and Silvergate for me were a very big deal, a really big deal.
And they are big deals.
No, but I mean, I had real positions on there, and those things. I mean, Signature will never trade again, and Silvergate's at 2. So those, when you have two big hits like that, I don't feel the need to play. And I guess that's what I would tell your listeners. Don't feel the need to play, in my mind, until you have conviction, until the fog lifts and the road gets clear. And the fog has not lifted right now, and the road sure isn't clear.
All really good thoughts, Mark. I guess on a lighter note, you live on a chicken farm. Were you selling any of the eggs?
I don't have enough production, Danielle, and the chicken thing is a front to keep people off my case. I actually live in Montana, and I'm a Montana resident. So my son's out. Yeah. So my son's out here in California. So when it's too cold in Montana, I come back and hang with him. But most people can track me down in Montana, and I live in a wonderful part of the world, and it's very peaceful. So the whole chicken thing is a front to keep people confused.
No, I want to hold on to that chicken story because I love it so much. Wait, I had one more question because then you were coming on. I saw someone tweet at you like, I didn't think I'd meet someone who was more angry at the corruption, injustice, and stupidity in the system, but it is Mark Cohodes. But then he said he also hates Canada. Is that true? Do you hate Canada?
Yeah, well, I have some friends in Canada, and I'm very welcome in British Columbia. And my pal, actually, Dave Eby, he's now the premier. And my girlfriend and I were one of the 2 Americans actually invited to his inauguration. So I'm very good in BC because I helped those guys with all their money laundering problems. I'm absolutely hated in Ontario because I exposed a drug fraud. I exposed a subprime bank. So I'm not welcome in Ontario at all. And true story, whenever I fly into Toronto, they always take me into a room and search me and interrogate me and do the whole thing, literally for 40 minutes. So I'm not welcome in Ontario. I'm kind of a hero in BC. But Canada is so ass backwards and it's so controlled by China that it's not scary. It's very scary. So we are to our north is China, also known as Canada. So I call the place Arctic Mexico, and a lot of Canadians agree with me. Some disagree with me, but if you disagree with me and you're not respectful on Twitter, I have 18,000 people blocked. So I have plenty of lovers and I have plenty of haters. So I mix it up a bit.
Well, you might not know I'm originally from Montreal, so we'll have a separate.
Montreal's all right. Montreal's all right. It's run by the mob, so everything works.
There you go. I always say Montrealers are different than Canadians. We are in a different category.
It's exactly right. The mob controls Montreal, and the bagels are really good, and the smoked meat is really good, and it's a lovely town, and I have a bunch of friends in Montreal. So Quebec is cool, but Ontario's for shit. So.
I just wanted to clarify that, and I will show my husband this episode. Mark Cahotis, because he said Montreal bagels. You heard it here better.
Yeah, I'm right.
New York bagels. Mark Cahotis, it was a real treat having you on. Come back anytime. Keep fighting the good fight. I know you want to take a break, but please don't, because we need more people like you. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Thanks for having me. You have a great rest of the day, and good luck, folks. It's not easy out there.
It's not easy. We're going to try and help everyone navigate through these times together, holding hands, getting stronger. All right. Thanks for watching the Daniela Cambone Show here on Stamsberry Research. And don't forget to sign up at danielacambone.com to stay on top of it all. That's it for me. Thanks for watching.